Welcome to a brand new episode of Johnson's Court. Today, I bring you Ball State University. Just kidding, I'm not sponsored by Ball State, but Chirp alumni here. But we also got Reo on the channel. As you can see, he's wearing an Indiana Pacers hat as well. So we're out here supporting our home team. They do play tonight. They play the Boston Celtics. So
Go Picks.
that's where we're at there. But just kind of this kind of a dual episode, a little bit of wrapping up the Super Bowl, just because I was supposed to do that the week before, but just got busy doing things. But we're also going to talk about the NBA and the trades that happened lately, because the trade deadline just happened. The NBA All-Star Weekend just happened, so we're going to get right into it. We're going to start from third place all the way to first place. And this is just because Reo started a little bit later in the season, or he would have identical records to Beagle and I. So in the playoffs, Reo went 8-5. That is his final record. Regular season, he had 75 wins, 45 losses, and 1 tie, for a total record of 83 wins, 50 losses, and 1 tie. So really good. And if he would have started at the beginning of the season, he potentially, probably might have beat me because I had a horrible year this year. And, Beagle, did phenomenal, but him and Beagle would have had a close record, so that would have been really cool. So what do you think about your record there, Reo?
Yeah, I definitely did better than I was thinking. I was shooting for around 500, so, to see, 20 or so wins better than that, it's really exciting. I'm really excited for next year. I feel like I'm going to improve next year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Then you go with me at second place. I had a down year, not going to lie. I had the better record last year. So my playoff record was 8-5 as well, so I tied Reo there. My regular season record was 148 wins, 121 losses, and 2 ties, with Reo coming in at my total being 156 wins, 126 losses, and 2 ties. So like I said, a little bit of a down year. It is what it is. There's always better luck next year, champ. So that's what I got to tell myself. Then you have the champion, number 1 overall, Beagle, who had a playoff record of 10-3, so he had the best playoff record. He had the best regular season record at 158 wins, 111 losses, and 2 ties. And then his total was 168 wins, 114 losses, and 2 ties. So, a round of applause for everybody who participated, but especially for Beagle, coming out on top. Really good for him. So super excited that he had the best year that he's had, and he would had over 150 wins. Had less than 120 losses. So played really well. Guessed really well, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But with that being said, that wraps up our records, and so now we're moving on to the Super Bowl recap before we move on to the NBA, because that is where the juicy stuff, the stuff that is ready to be talked about, because that is the sport that we are now transitioning to since the NFL is now in its off season. It was the Eagles versus the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. As many of you know, we all picked the Eagles to win. That obviously did not happen, which is kind of crazy because they were winning most of the game. The Chiefs were able to come back and win 38-35. And, Patrick Mahomes was named MVP. He did finally break the curse for winning the regular season MVP and winning the Super Bowl MVP in the same year. Hasn't happened since 2001 or 1999. One of the two, Kurt Warner. So, Reo, just kind of give me your final thoughts on the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think all of us having the Eagles, I think that kind of says something. I think we all kind of had a hunch who the better team was. I don't know how you feel, but I know that Beagle fancies the Eagles a little more. I personally fancy the Chiefs a little more. So even though I like the Chiefs more, I have the Eagles down for winning. Still think they should have won it, with all the calls that went on. But I feel like it was a really good matchup. It was one of the better Super Bowls that we've seen. I definitely like when it's not a super big blowout. It went down to the wire. Feel like they should have let him play a little more. I think that Patty Mahomes has shown us he can play pretty good through injuries. And that they just both put on a show. The Eagles are young. The Chiefs are not the youngest, but on the younger side. So I think that we got more matchups to come, whether it's in the Super Bowl or whether it's a primetime Thursday night. But yeah, what do you think, Riley? Who did you want to win, and then what did you think about what ended up happening?
Yeah, so I mean, I honestly thought this game could have went either way. It was really, I didn't care who won this game. I was just picking. I really thought the Eagles were the better team. Obviously, that's why I went with them. Now we will definitely see a matchup in the regular season of them playing because that normally is what happens when they play in the Super Bowl. Then they play in the regular season the next year. Just kind of cool to see. A Super Bowl rematch before say they both go back to Super Bowl again. Who knows? But honestly, this was a great game. It honestly, I know it hasn't happened in a very long time. I don't remember the player or who it was who last time the Super Bowl MVP was awarded to the losing team. But I think that honestly could have happened. Jalen Hurts had 3 touchdowns by himself, 2 rushing touchdowns. Had I want to say 300 some yards. I don't know the stats. I don't have them written down, but he played phenomenal. And so just to see that, it did come down to, a holding call at the end of the game. Yes, you said they should have played. He did hold him, whatever it is, what it is. Refs are going to call it. Great game overall. I was definitely happy with the Super Bowl. But, the Rihanna halftime show was phenomenal. I was super excited to, watch her perform. But, I don't think this was a bad Super Bowl whatsoever. It was decided by 3 points. I did win some money. So that was nice. But it was definitely, like you said, one for the ages, and I'm going to say this, and then this probably my final thought is the Chiefs are in the middle of a dynasty, and yes, you lost one of your big players, Tyreek Hill, but still there's going to be players that come and go, but as long as you keep, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, your 2 main star players, obviously, yes, they're on offense, but, you got to keep the quarterback within that dynasty. And it's just a dynasty in the making, and I think they still have, at least 2 more Super Bowls to win. I don't know if that comes in the next 4 years or whatnot, but definitely it's in the making. And so that's all I've got to say about the Super Bowl.
Yeah, dude, I completely agree with you on the Chiefs. They're going to continue to be good because they found out that they had 2 really good young running backs that they can run and catch.
Yes.
So. And I think that even with Hill, that Mahomes doesn't prefer to have one wide receiver anyway.
Yeah, no, he was able to, really come back, from being down and, just really show, why Patrick Mahomes is who he is. And he, like you said, he also played through injury. So congrats to the Kansas City Chiefs and winning this Super Bowl. Like I said, it was a great Super Bowl, and hopefully next year's Super Bowl will be just as good. So with that being said, we are now moving on to the NBA trades. Now, Rio, I want I want to hear the excitement in your voice because I know this is something that you definitely wanted to talk about. And, I'm going to let you go first. Obviously, we're going to go back and forth with the trades. But, start us off, hit us off. Let us know the trade that you want to talk about the most.
Yeah, so I feel like this is one of the trades that really kicked off everything. I know that the trade deadline has been coming up. People have been wanting to get shipped. But I feel like what really knocked off the fireworks show was Kyrie going to Dallas. He wanted a long-term contract in Brooklyn. He wanted a team that he could stay long-term for. He has a really good relationship with KD. It was nothing about him and KD. So it's not always relationship issues. And the Nets, they didn't want to give him a long-term deal. They didn't know what was going to happen. So he went ahead, requested a trade. He wanted the Lakers. The Nets kind of have... I wouldn't say saltiness, but they're just kind of in a little disagreement with Kyrie. So I think that they did everything they could to not honor the Lakers.
Yeah.
LeBron has hinted that he was surprised that they didn't get Kyrie. So I imagine they sent an offer for Kyrie.
100%.
So I'm really excited, though. Dallas is one of my more favorited teams. I like watching Dallas a lot more than the Nets. I like Kyrie a lot. What made me kind of fall off of liking Kyrie was when he went to the Nets. And so now that he's on a little less of a super team, he's with one of my other favorite players in Luka. I know they play the same position, but I think that they're definitely going to win more games. I think that both of them can close out the game. Both of them can score like 30 plus. I think it's just really exciting. And Brooklyn did a pretty good job at the pieces that they got too. The pieces with Kyrie, and the player that you're going to talk about next. So Brooklyn, because they did good rebuilding for the future. They're not looking to just buy out superstars right now anymore.
For sure, and I think that, we all knew that the big three was going to come to an end. Potentially it was the biggest bust, part of like the biggest superstars, being together on one team and not winning anything. James Harden obviously got out of the first and went to the 76ers, and then, Kyrie obviously didn't work out. And now he's with the Mavs and with Luka. So that's going to be a fun, team to watch. And, it's just like all the, sometimes all the players get shifted out to the West. And that leads me into the Brooklyn Nets shipped KD to Phoenix to play with Chris Paul, the point guard, and Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Now, this is going to, be all in for Phoenix. They were like, hey, we were so close 2 years ago. Didn't, quite, got blown out by the Mavs, in Game 7, whatever, last year. So they're like, hey, we are going all in. We're throwing all our chips in. It's either a championship or bust. And, I like that mentality because, like, that's just what it's got to be for them, especially because Chris Paul is, I think he's got a year or two left, to be honest with you. And it's just not – yes, Devin Booker's good, but obviously he wasn't getting anywhere without the addition of Chris Paul. And then obviously you put the greatest scorer, 7 foot, man, with Kyrie or with Chris Paul and – Devin Booker. So it's awesome to see. Now, I think that, like you said, Brooklyn definitely, I figured this trade was going to happen last year and it didn't. And, maybe both sides were too scared to, go through with it. But this year they were kind of all in. And, they got Malik Bridges, Jay Crowder, who was not playing on the Suns. He was, not even on the bench, basically. They didn't have really anything to do with him. And then they shipped a few picks as well. So, and then Malik Bridges goes off for 40, a few nights later for the Nets. So, and they were sitting comfortably at 4th, but now I don't think they make the playoffs. Not to say that they're a bad team, but, you lost all your superstars that you had that kept you float in the 4th spot. So that's all I got to say. I think it's championship or bust with KD to Phoenix, and I'm just super excited to watch that. So, yeah, go ahead, Reo, with the next one as well.
Yeah, dude. The whole KD to Phoenix, that was crazy. I think that's probably the biggest trade, that's the biggest name, biggest superstar. I think that Phoenix did Bridges a little dirty. I don't know if you know this, but he just signed a massive contract with him. Dave sat down and talked with him saying, we want you to be a big part of this future. And so I understand, getting KD, but if this turns out to be one do you think this would be worth it if they just won one championship to trade a player like Bridges, some picks?
It's hard to say, is it worth it in the long term, because yes, the immediate goal is to win one chip. So if you win one chip, and obviously that has to be this year, then yes, you can say the trade was worth it. But for the short term, but for the long term, if they don't win at least 2, then no, it was not worth it in the long term. But short term, if they win 1, yes. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah. And I know it sounds crazy me saying, was Bridges worth KD, but just the whole young core idea in general.
Yes.
But I'll move on to the next one. So I'm also excited about this one. This is a player that I've watched for a little bit. He got in trouble in L.A., he went to Brooklyn, had confidence. They got to the playoffs. They did really good. And then he went to the T-Wolves. And the T-Wolves have been a bit of a mess. The player I'm talking about is D'Angelo Russell. And he recently got traded to the Lakers.
Yes, he did. Back to the Lakers, where it all started.
He better keep his cell phone back in Minnesota. I think, the Lakers, they are really... I don't know how they could have went more all in. I feel like they've been trying and nothing's been working, but they finally made some good moves this year. I feel like this year they finally have been able to do some good moves. They got Westbrook out of there, which everyone was saying that nothing's wrong. LeBron said he loves Westbrook. Westbrook said he loves LeBron, but on the court we could see there was a problem. So they got Westbrook out of there. They brought D'Lo. The Lakers also got Roy Hachimura earlier this season, which I thought was awesome.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful pickup. I think that is a bigger pickup than D'Lo.
For sure. Yeah, I think D'Lo needs to know his role. I think he needs to know that he's not going to be the guy making the game winner, the guy scoring all the points. But I think that he's definitely going to be a better option in the corner three than Westbrook when LeBron's doubled.
Yeah.
So, so with that being said, and then the Lakers did some other moves, just switching around some guys. So I think that they're putting themselves in a really good position. Their record is really bad. They've been at the bottom of the seedings the whole year. So I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. I hope they do, just so we can see what they try to do in the playoffs. But they're definitely looking good as far as the talent acquisition and getting pieces around LeBron and AD.
Yeah, no, like you said, it's those big market teams that are all in, like, Phoenix, obviously, because they have two superstars, and then, LA, the Warriors, just, all the big market teams. And with that being said, it's kind of funny that, you talked about LA and the Lakers because it leads into Westbrook is now on the LA Clippers. He didn't have to sell his home. He's just still going to the same, arena, just playing for a different team, a different jersey. But, I'm glad that he went to LA, well, the Clippers, because I'm not necessarily going to say that it's not going to work out, because I thought that the Clippers were going to be the number one seed in my preseason standings. And that's kind of still where I do stand. And that's only because, I know Kawhi's going to do load management and things like that. But, having another superstar and experience, he has a lot of experience. And, they traded Reggie Jackson away. And, so they did need a point guard. So I understand why they went out and got Russell Westbrook. But, and Paul George is a big advocate for him, as, they played in OKC together. So I just don't know how well it's going to work out. I think it's going to work out better than it was going to work out with the Lakers, just because of the way that the Clippers run their offense compared to the way that, and I'll say it, LeBron runs his offense. It's just not the same. And so I think, D'Lo fits that scheme better in LA, but we'll just see what happens. I definitely want to see Russell Westbrook win a chip, don't get me wrong. But can he do it with his other buddy, Paul George, instead of LeBron James? So.
Yeah, good point, man. And yeah, your seeding prediction is doing well, man. The Clippers are doing better than what I expected.
They are. What is the other trade that you wanted to talk about, or two trades?
I think that was it for this year. I think that was it for mine this year.
Was Laurie traded earlier in the year, or was that in the offseason to the Jazz? Might have been the offseason. But at least he is on the Jazz, because we traded, the Pacers traded Halliburton for him. Or no, that was Sabonis, my bad. So I think that trade worked out pretty well. Yes, I know that the Pacers aren't in the playoffs right now. I know the Kings, I think, are in the playoffs right now. But just to see where the Pacers are building the young core, I think that's definitely a big move. And then Sabonis was definitely, something that the Kings needed. But, I kind of wanted to talk about, Kevin Love got bought out of his contract with Cleveland and is now going to Miami. Bam said, I think it was on Twitter, he was like, you better make some effing shots. And Kevin Love replied back with, you better space the floor so that I can make shots. So, they're having fun. They're chirping at each other already. Good team chemistry, I feel like, is going to come from, Kevin Love. He's the last one to leave Cleveland out of LeBron and Kyrie, obviously. And I just think I think Kevin Love should have been out of Cleveland a long time ago, if you ask me. I think, what did he do? Sign an extension or something for a few more years. And so I'm really just glad that he's out of there, because he's a 15-year veteran. And, I know he's probably if he doesn't retire for this year, he's got at least one more in him. And so, to see him play so good at Minnesota and then, go to Cleveland and then now to Miami. I think he helps Miami tremendously. I think it's a better move than what a lot of people think. I love the way that Miami plays ball. I can't tell you what plays they run. I don't have that down to a T. But the way that when you watch them play basketball, you're like, hey, these players right here play great team ball, and I can see them going far because they're unselfish.
Super unselfish.
So, so like I said, I think Kevin Love to Miami is one of the, it wasn't a trade because they bought out his contract, but I think it's a great move there. But is there anything else, NBA trades you want to talk about or, chime in on, or just, give your opinion of the All-Star game, All-Star break, or anything like that?
Well, the dunk contest, it was cool to see Mac McClung show us something cool because the dunk contest has been a doozy. Last year's was especially really bad.
True.
And then the All-Star game, like a lot of players have been talking, like, Jaylen Brown said something. Mike Malone, the West coach, he said something about how
Nuggets coach.
it's not fun to watch the All-Star game because it's like a layup line. The players kind of just like get out of each other's way and then they go for a dunk or so. And I'm not saying that they necessarily do need to care about that game because it doesn't affect the record. But I think, I don't know, as a fan perspective, as a show perspective, it would be nice to see a little more effort into it, a little more intensity, kind of like how Kobe used to play them.
You are losing, obviously, the attendance for it. I mean, now it depends on, how big of an NBA fan you are. But it still doesn't matter how big of an NBA fan you are. I mean, because surprisingly, I didn't tune in. I mean, I watched it maybe a little bit, but didn't really tune into it. Just kind of like, the Nuggets coach said, it's a glorified layup line. It really is. Yes, Jason Tatum broke the record for the most points in the All-Star game, which was really cool to see. But, maybe if they change the format up a little bit and instead of, doing... I mean, you still got to have the All-Star game, don't get me wrong, but maybe you just do, because it goes to a target score. It doesn't go by timer anymore. So, maybe you do that for 2 quarters or something, and then we see him play one-on-one. I've seen, things like that. I think that would be really cool to see. You have to mix it up something because that's what the NFL did for this year, obviously. They played 7-on-7 instead of, having like a football game. So I don't know what the NBA is going to do, but obviously, you and I know they're going to do something. So.
Yeah, we'll see. I think the one-on-one is a good idea. It doesn't require them to dunk. They might try a little harder just because, I don't know. But I think the three-point contest is still entertaining. I think Halliburton almost won it, but he ended up not.
I had a feeling Dame was going to win it. I called that. Like, I was like, I don't know, or something. I was just like, Dame's going to win. And so he did.
Dame's a great shooter. I think that's his first win. I think he's done that. I think he's done the contest 3 times.
Oh, yeah, because Dame's been an all-star like 3 times. But no, I mean, he did well. Other players did well. I just think that, we only have 22-some games left in the NBA, so it's definitely going... yes, it's definitely going to be a hard, because it's not halfway during the season. It's 22 games left, so, people are really, pushing, putting their foot down. And I'm excited to see, what happens, who makes the playoffs, who doesn't make the playoffs, and, especially because we have that play-in tournament as well. And I'm just excited that now that the NBA is on because, with NFL on, it's hard to, like, try to do both. But now my attention is away from the NFL, and so now I can focus more on the NBA, obviously, and, especially when the playoff time comes. But, Rio, is there anything else that you want to say about the NBA or anything like that before we wrap it up?
No, I'm excited just like you are, man. Like you said, it's the home stretch. They're all going to be pushing it and trying to get the best seedings as possible, or some teams like the Hornets are trying to get Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, we'll see who gets him.
We'll see who gets him. That's another exciting part. The NBA, it's always exciting all year long, even the off-season. Prospects are always going off. I'm super excited. I'm excited to see what these trades do to the original outlook of how the league was going. Like, I wonder who rises to the top, who falls because of them. I know that you said the Nets will probably fall way off.
Yeah.
The Nets, they'll probably fall right out of the playoffs.
And kind of like I said, everyone, not everyone, but two big players got traded from the East to the West, so that definitely makes it harder. Where like, okay, we know that not every team, not every player can advance. So we'll just see what happens. The NBA is exciting. It's personally my favorite sport to watch. So we'll just see, what happens because obviously playoff time is just such a unique time. Especially to see what players make it in. Will this be the LeBron's last
Thanks.
Not necessarily his last dance, but he doesn't make the playoffs, and then he leaves LA after. I don't really know because obviously his son is going to hasn't committed anywhere yet, but he's going to go somewhere for college, and then obviously he's going to come out. So LeBron definitely still at least has 2 more years, and so can he get a chip before his son comes in the league? That's the next big question. So that's it, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe. Comment what you think. Who do you have winning it all? Do you think that some trade should go down? Things like that. So thank you all so very much, and until next time, we will see you then.
Peace out.